Hey everybody, Aaron Rift here from NoDQ.com, and this video is about my top 15 greatest WWE matches in history, and this is for the main roster, so I am not including NXT in this list. This is simply male top 15 WWE matches of all time. Now, what is my criteria? I am looking at, obviously, the quality of the match, the build up to the match, the storyline behind the match, the impact that the match had on WWE, all sorts of different things I'm looking at, and of course my own personal preference. So here we go. Some of you may disagree with these picks, some of you may agree. Whatever the case is, let's go ahead and get started. Starting off at number 30 on my list is Daniel Bryan versus Batista versus Randy Orton. I was debating putting either this match or Daniel Bryan versus Triple H on the list. Really, they are both watchable. They're both part of the storyline. They're both great. But I went with this one because it has the ultimate payoff to this storyline, which was Daniel Bryan finally winning the undisputed WWE Championship after months of feuding with the Authority. It started at SummerSlam when Daniel Bryan won the WWE title from John Cena, only to be screwed over by Triple H. Randy Orton came out, cashed in Money in the Bank, and this led to several months of Daniel Bryan trying to get back into the title picture. He developed the whole yes movement. You had that memorable Raw moment where everybody got in the ring and did the yes chant. Finally, at WrestleMania, Daniel Bryan defeated Triple H, and then he came back out at the end and went through a very grueling battle with Randy Orton and Batista to finally emerge as the undisputed WWE Champion. Coming in at number 14 is another triple threat match, Triple H versus Shawn Michaels versus Chris Benoit from WrestleMania 20. Unfortunately, because of the Benoit murder-suicide, this match is forgotten about in history. WWE doesn't acknowledge it, but it was a great match, and it did have a great story behind it. You had Chris Benoit, who for the longest time was a mid-card star trying to reach that next level. He finally had his breakout moment at the 2004 Royal Rumble, winning the whole thing, and then going on to the 20th WrestleMania in Madison Square Garden. The match itself was fantastic. All three of those guys put on a stellar performance. But then it was not only the title victory, Chris Benoit finally realizing his dream, but the aftermath where you had Eddie Guerrero come out. Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit had similar careers, similar uphill battles, and they were close friends. And to see the two of them, each with their own world title, celebrating, one of the best feel-good moments in WWE history. Next up at number 13 is Hollywood Hulk Hogan versus The Rock. Was this a technical masterpiece? No, not by any stretch of the imagination. However, it is an all-time classic, not because of the technical aspect of it, but because it was two icons, two legends, two people you never thought would get in the ring against each other, going at it at the biggest show of the year, WrestleMania, 68,000 people in the Toronto Sky Dome, the same building where Hulk Hogan had his WrestleMania 6 match with the Ultimate Warrior. It was all about the nostalgia and the crowd reaction. The crowd was just unbelievably hot for this match, and it was a special moment in WWE history to see Hulk Hogan finally come back and be in a main event match at WrestleMania. The atmosphere was unbelievable, and they could really do anything, and the crowd was eating it up, every moment of it. Hulk Hogan could do a back rake and get a pop from the crowd. It was just one of those matches that was pure magic, and no doubt deserves to be recognized as one of the all-time most entertaining matches in the history of the company. Number 12, Shawn Michaels versus Kurt Angle from WrestleMania 21. There were several Shawn Michaels matches that just barely did not make the cut. I put this one on here. Maybe it's a little biased. I was there in Los Angeles for this WrestleMania, but in my opinion, this is the all-time greatest WrestleMania match for Kurt Angle. And Shawn Michaels definitely had one of his best WrestleMania performances. And that's really saying something coming from Shawn Michaels. He had so many great WrestleMania matches. This was the best match I've ever seen in person. It was just two guys going out there and having a fantastic match. There was tons of drama. You had high spots. You had everything you could ask for in a match. Very fun to watch. Both guys were at the top of their games with their athleticism, and it was just a very special, unforgettable match. Kurt Angle did pick up the victory, and I also like the build-up for the match too. In particular, I like the Kurt Angle Sensational Sherry segment to build it up. It was simple, but it was a nice build for that WrestleMania. Number 11, Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant from WrestleMania 3. Now, some people consider this to be a terrible match, and again, technically, it was not pretty. It was a bit of a mess. But the key spots that they needed to do, they were executed well. And the match was historic. 93,000 people, the announced attendance for WrestleMania 3. It was the peak of that golden era of Hulkamania. Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant. Andre was one of the biggest stars in the world, and you had this friendship that went bad. Andre the Giant went to Bobby the Brain Heenan, and you had that Piper's Pit segment. One of my favorite build-ups ever for a WrestleMania match. Andre tearing off the shirt, tearing off the crucifix, and then Hulk Hogan was going to WrestleMania to get his revenge at the Pontiac Silverdome. And then, of course, the big spot that everybody remembers. Again, they pulled it off. The body slam, heard around the world. There's been all the stories. Of course, Hulk Hogan likes to exaggerate that he body slammed the 700-pound giant and all the muscles in his back were torn. And of course, the story that Andre allowed Hogan to win the match, and Andre could have had a change of opinion, a change of mind at any time, but he still was a professional. So the match has its stories, but nonetheless, it's an all-time historic and memorable WWE match. Coming in at number 10, the Hardys versus Edge and Christian versus the Dudley Boyz from SummerSlam 2000. This match and the WrestleMania 17 match were both great, but I give the slight edge to this one just because it was the first one, and no pun intended, by the way, by using the term edge. It was amazing to watch. It was a spectacle. It was three tag teams that were hungry, that wanted to go out there and steal the show and do whatever it took to make those fans happy. You had all sorts of big spots with the tables, the ladders, the chairs. Lita even got involved. Bubba Ray Dudley went through the tables. They fell off the ladders. Jeff Hardy did his dive off the top. All these big spots, and it was just a pure spectacle to watch. And in my opinion, the best multi-person ladder match in WWE history. So this gets on my list at number 10. Next up at number 9 is Shawn Michaels versus Triple H from SummerSlam 2002. This was Shawn Michaels' big comeback match after being retired for 4 years. I love the build-up, the betrayal of Triple H turning his back on Shawn Michaels, leading up to Shawn Michaels coming out of retirement at SummerSlam. And this match was just so well put together. The suspense and the drama, the storytelling in this match. Of course, fans had thought that Shawn Michaels might not be 100%, that he could get hurt again, and WWE capitalized on this. Triple H would give Shawn Michaels a slam into the steel chair, and everybody would cringe because you know of Shawn Michaels' back problems in his medical history. They really played up on that well. Great storytelling. Shawn came back. Every move in the match meant something. Shawn picked up the win, but of course afterwards Triple H attacked Shawn Michaels, and that would set up the continuation of the feud, which would last for several months. But this was Shawn Michaels' big comeback, and I don't think it could have been done any better. Coming in at number 8 is Randy Savage versus Ricky Steamboat from WrestleMania 3. I love the build-up for this match. You had Randy Savage using the ring bell on Ricky Steamboat's throat. Steamboat coming back for revenge. You had George the Animal Steele in Steamboat's corner, and there was history with Randy Savage and George Steele. The match is known for all the near falls, and at the time, it was something you just didn't see in WWE. Near fall after near fall with these guys, and this would become a common thing. Today, it's nothing special. You see every match with tons of near falls. But back then, it was something special. It was the first of its kind in WWE, and it was fantastic. Great storytelling, love the build-up, and love the execution of this match. George Steele prevented Savage from using the ring bell on Steamboat again, and that led to Steamboat rolling up Savage and winning the Intercontinental title. And just amazing match and very historic. A match that has influenced a lot of people in wrestling, and rightfully so. Number 7, Shawn Michaels versus Razor Ramon from WrestleMania 10 in the ladder match to determine the undisputed IC champion. Shawn Michaels had been suspended from the company. He was stripped of the title. Razor Ramon won the title, and then there was a dispute. So 2 titles were put above the ring, and you had to climb a ladder to get it. This was the first pay-per-view ladder match in WWE, and this was a breakout performance for both guys, and in particular Shawn Michaels. But I like to give Scott Hall credit too, because it takes 2 to tango. But Shawn Michaels had this performance that I think really put him on the map and put him in good graces with Vince as a guy that the company could build itself around. Just so much fun to watch. Shawn Michaels was absolutely brilliant with his bump taking, and Razor Ramon got the big win. Excellent WrestleMania match, and one of the best of that entire new generation era. Coming in at number 6, The Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels from Hell in a Cell Bad Blood. This was the first Hell in a Cell match back in 1997. You actually had a good reason for doing a Hell in a Cell match. They had a pay-per-view match the month before, which had tons of interference and ended in a no contest. So you needed a way to end this dispute. WWE introduced the new cage, and Shawn Michaels, again, he was bumping like crazy for The Undertaker in this match. It was violent. You had tons of blood. Everything you would expect in a cage match. Guys getting thrown into the cage. But then you had the big spot where Shawn was halfway up the cage and got knocked off through the announce table. At the time, it was something we hadn't seen before. And then the big surprise at the end. Undertaker was about to win. The lights go out, and it's got to be Kane. Kane comes out, makes his big debut. He tombstones The Undertaker. Shawn Michaels manages to put one arm over The Undertaker and score the victory. And he's literally carried out by Triple H. I love it. Excellent match and one of the best in WWE history. And now we are down to the top 5. At number 5 is Stone Cold Steve Austin versus The Rock from WrestleMania 17. I actually like the 19 match slightly more, but I think historically the WrestleMania 17 match is a bigger deal because it was at the peak of the Attitude Era, and it was a very significant finish. I love the Austin-Rock dynamic. The build-up for this WrestleMania was fantastic with the promos, the backstage face-to-face interview that they had, and of course the Limp Bizkit song for the video package, My Way or the Highway. It was fantastic. It was really the end of an era in WWE, though. Austin and Rock, they would use each other's finishers. It was back and forth, but Austin could not beat The Rock. And this is when Vince McMahon came out, and in the big shocker, it was revealed that Vince and Austin were in cahoots. Of course, I have never been a fan of the Steve Austin heel turn. To this day, I'm still critical of it. And to me, this was the one blemish on this match. I think turning Austin heel was a big-time mistake, but everything else about it was just unbelievably entertaining and one of the best matches of all time. Coming in at number 4 is The Undertaker versus Mankind from King of the Ring 1998. This was the second pay-per-view Hell in a Cell match. Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker, they set the bar pretty darn high, but these guys took it to a whole new level, in particular Mick Foley, who right off the bat climbed to the top, and then Undertaker proceeded to throw Mankind off the cell through the announce table in one of the most shocking moments in WWE history. You would think that that would be the end of it. Mankind was about to be taken out on a stretcher, but he got up, he climbed back up, and the fight continued. And then Undertaker choke slams Mankind through the cell all the way to the floor. Again, you're in complete shock about this. This is just unreal. Something you've never seen before. You have Terry Funk coming out there to check on him. Undertaker continues to attack Mankind. Mankind is carried out again, but then he gets back in the ring. You could see that his tooth went through his nose. I mean, this is something you cannot stage here. Mankind being chokeslammed off of a cage. There's no right way to fall, as JR puts it. The fight continues. Mankind brings out thumbtacks, and then Undertaker proceeds to chokeslam Mankind into the thumbtacks and then scores the victory. So the match is truly historic. People still talk about it to this day. When you think of Hell in a Cell, you think of Mankind and Undertaker. Coming in at number 3 is John Cena versus CM Punk from Money in the Bank 2011. The storyline build-up to this match was probably the most compelling storyline in recent WWE history, where you had CM Punk. In real life, his contract was coming up, so WWE took this real-life scenario and put it into storyline. CM Punk went out there on Monday Night Raw in Las Vegas and proceeded to cut the now infamous pipe bomb promo where he broke the fourth wall and he talked about how he was going to leave the company with the WWE title, maybe go to Ring of Honor with it, and it was a moment that broke the internet. It broke NoDQ.com. NoDQ.com crashed, and then we finally had the match at Money in the Bank in Chicago, CM Punk's hometown, against John Cena. The atmosphere could not be more intense. It was so intense you could cut it with a knife, as Gorilla Monsoon might say. John Cena, CM Punk. It wasn't technically the best match, but it was still fun to watch. Not a dull moment. You had Vince coming out there trying to ensure that John Cena would leave as WWE champion. But in the end, CM Punk pulled it off, defeated John Cena, and left with the WWE title. The aftermath was a bit disappointing, but this moment, CM Punk blowing a kiss to Vince while holding the title, it's something you'll never forget. And now we're down to the top 2. Coming in at number 2 is Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania 25 in Houston, Texas. A match that really defined that WrestleMania. Up until that point during the night, I was feeling very disappointed with that WrestleMania. And then Undertaker and Shawn Michaels went out there and they showed everybody how it's done. I tell people this all the time. If you're looking to get into wrestling and you want to learn what to do, watch Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker. Everything they did meant something. Their timing was just right on the money, and it was epic. It was truly an epic back and forth match. Shawn Michaels and Undertaker, 2 of the greatest of all time, having about as perfect of a match as you could ask for without Curt Hennig being involved. It was fantastic. It's something you should definitely watch if you have the chance, and most fans consider it to be their all-time favorite match. I polled people on NoDQ.com, and this is the match that won. But it's not my number 1. It's very close, though. One of the best of all time for sure. And now for my number 1 greatest match in WWE history, which is Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Bret the Hitman Hart from WrestleMania 13. In my opinion, the most significant match in WWE history, a match that was really the turning point for the company, if you could pinpoint one moment in time, a defining moment for the rise of Steve Austin. You had Steve Austin as this renegade heel character, getting in the legend Bret Hart's face, interfering in Bret Hart's matches. Steve Austin would win the Royal Rumble in 1997. Bret Hart would quit the company only to come back, win the title, and then get screwed by Steve Austin. Bret Hart would just slowly start to lose his mind, and finally at WrestleMania 13, this score had to be settled in a submission match, which of course Bret Hart would win every submission match he was ever in, and it was his specialty. So how would Steve Austin be able to hang with Bret Hart? You had Ken Shamrock there as the special guest referee, and it was just a pure fight. It felt like a real fight watching it. It felt like 2 guys that really despised each other and wanted to tear each other apart. That's how convincing Bret Hart and Steve Austin were. You had blood, you had them brawling all over the place, trading submissions. Steve Austin got his head sliced open, and then Bret Hart put Steve Austin in the sharpshooter, and you have that iconic WrestleMania moment, Steve Austin with blood pouring down his face, refusing to give up, making him in an instant the ultimate baby face that would not quit no matter what. He would rather pass out than give up to Bret Hart. So Austin passed out, Bret won the match, and then in true heel fashion, what do? You kick a guy when he's down. Bret Hart attacks Steve Austin, continues to beat on him. Ken Shamrock finally gets Bret away from Steve Austin, and this was the beginning of the rise for Steve Austin as the top babyface, and we all know where it went. WWE became once again the #1 company in the world, and they're still here to this day. And for me, that was the moment that made Steve Austin's career, made him the guy in WWE at WrestleMania 13. So that's my #1 right there. Austin Hart, WrestleMania 13. So there you have it for my list of the top 15 greatest main roster WWE matches in history. Let me know what you thought about this list. Leave a comment, leave your matches. What matches should have been included on this list? How would you have changed the order? Let me know, and stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest wrestling news and rumors.